we're all wondering, who's the real conservative here, right?
So-
Is that the big question?
You know, I've heard Chris define this over and over and over again, and all I can tell you is that if you look at my voting record, if you look at how I've lived my life, I'm totally in line with Utah's conservative values, and that makes me question if he's not there, does that mean he's an extremist?
Well, you just said Utah conservative values. Are Utah conservative values different from mainstream or national?
Well, I would say that Utah is viewed as one of the most conservative states in the union.
So I asked the same question to Chris, but will this primary election, because it's just you and him this time, will this decide once and for all what kind of conservatism the third district is?
You know, I think that's been decided over and over. I think the win last year was decisive. I can't talk about these town halls enough. You know, we've gone out and done 50 town halls, between 50 and 100 people at every one. And those are good because, number one, I'm accountable, but number two, I hear what people are thinking and what they're telling me. And I can tell you that we're right aligned with those people in the district.
Do you think you're showing it at the convention belies this idea that you're not conservative?
Yeah. So 59%. And last year, Chris was so bold in saying, "Hey, I'm the convention winner, therefore I should be the guy." And we moved from 9% to 59%. That's quite a statement.
He said you spent a lot of money to get those votes. The caucus convention system is supposed to be the best test of grassroots strength.
Yeah. What he's calculating is the fact that we kept our campaign running at the end of the last election because we knew this election was coming so quickly. So I kept a team involved. He's not counting all the town hall meetings, the renting of the halls, the travel to those, all the work that we did in getting a database together. All of that's included in the spending. It's not just what was spent on the convention.
So you feel like you are the grassroots winner?
I think it's evident from the results.
How would you say your brand of conservatism differs?
You know, first of all, let me say, I think it's really hard to use these labels, right? We evoke a label like you're a conservative, you're a liberal, and it's just really not that simple. Many people tend to say, well, he's moderate because he talks in terms that doesn't offend people. And just that alone is conservative. It's considered by some not conservative. And so I think you really need to drill down into when you say you're conservative, specifically what does that mean, not these broad labels.
But you were a Democrat at one time.
That doesn't mean I wasn't conservative, right? I mean, there's plenty of conservative Democrats. You look at what I did as a Democrat, the platform I ran on, the principles I promoted of independence and personal responsibility and all of those things that I think Utah views as clear conservative values.
So what does it mean to be a conservative here in this district and in Utah then?
So I think first and foremost, when people think about conservative here in this district, they're talking about fiscally. We are very fiscally conservative in this state, and the way we run this state is an amazing example of fiscal conservatism. And I think that's in my blood. If you look at my personal life, if you look at how we ran our business, if you look at what we did in the city of Provo, if you look at how I voted as a congressman, you'll see that I'm very fiscally conservative. And so I'd say for most people that's their main definition. And then, of course, you get into social issues and where we stand on things like immigration. But I think you have to look no further than the Utah Compact to say, well, how does Utah feel about immigration? And if the Utah Compact is conservative, I'm right in line with that.
Your opponent says that you mishandled allegations of sexual harassment and assault against your former police chief in Provo. Did you, and could that be an issue in this campaign?
Let me say this. Anytime that subject comes up, I've learned that we just almost need to pause for a minute and realize that when there's sexual abuse or sexual harassment, real people are hurt in real ways. And right now, the facts are still unfolding, right, in the Provo City case. There's so much that even I don't know. And I've got a lot of confidence in the process that we're going through right now. And as that unfolds, if there are things that the Provo City could have done, that I could have done, this will be a good opportunity for us all to learn that. But I would just point out that we're talking about allegations of how I handled allegations, and we need to let this thing unwind a little bit more to see exactly what we've got.
During the debate, you were asked about Ron Mortensen, and you don't have a vote on his nomination, but you said there's no way this congressman will ever vote for a racist to fill that position. position. Were you talking specifically about Ron Mortensen?
You know, I was being a little bit careful because I'm in this category of having heard what Ron Mortensen said, right? The nomination is new. I've heard all of these things. I haven't had the chance to dig in myself and see specifically what he has said and how he said it. So that's why I was just being a little bit careful, as I felt like until I do that. But if the things that are reported or the things that I'm hearing are true, they sound disturbing to me and wouldn't be in harmony with somebody who should be in that position.
Are they things that make him a racist in your mind? And what specifically are you talking about that you've heard that raised that word in your
Yeah, now you're pushing me to a point where I really do need to spend more time understanding what he said. You know, people said, "Oh, he said racist things," and I need to spend the time, to be fair to him, to really see what he said and if it reported that he said it or did he actually say it.
But you used the word. What caused you to use that word?
It's been just what I've heard in the news in the last few days, the type of attitude that he has towards this, and so that's why I was a little bit careful and said, look, I haven't really spent the time with this to be able to answer that. But if he's racist, I couldn't support that.
Last time you faced Chris, it was a three-way race. Who takes Tanner's votes?
Yeah, so I think Chris and I both think, we would have, just naturally, I would have taken him, and he thinks that he would have taken him. I think if you look, step back and take the emotion out of it, rarely are those votes split too much different than 50-50, right? And let's suppose hypothetically it's as radical as 60-40 or something like that. Chris still doesn't win that race.
Do you feel pretty confident at this point?
When I look back on what we've been able to accomplish in 6 months, I'm really pleased. And as we go to these town hall meetings, we take the message forward of, look, let me show you what you got in 6 months. And it's impressive, to be honest, what we've been able to accomplish. And I think we've laid a really good case for sending me back. And as I mentioned in my opening statement, I didn't quite put it this way, but it feels like I just got a Utah Jazz uniform and we're 2 minutes into the game, right? And now we're redrafting. And I'm saying to the people of the 3rd District, I want to get back in that game. Let me get back in the game because look what I've done in 6 months, and we'll just keep going.
One of the things that seemed to be a big topic, obviously, was the deficit and
Yeah.
the economy. You had kind of mentioned that we just need more growth, and then that will basically take out some of that. If that doesn't here in the future, considering the growth is quite big, will you change your mind on the tax breaks?
So let me be clear. I didn't mean to infer that that everything was good because of the potential growth. I do believe it's worth looking at, and that the initial impact of the tax cuts is not as gloomy as was projected. I'm very concerned. Had I known how this was going to play out with the budget vote following the tax cut, that would have given me great pause. Now, we don't have a chance to go back on either one of those, and I do believe the tax cuts are going to be a real positive for the deficit as we get down the road just a little bit. But I think constituents of the 3rd District and of Utah have a right to be concerned about the budget.
How big a factor is Trump going to be in this election? You spent a lot of time with your constituents. You've mentioned multiple times how many town halls you've done, how many people you've reached out to. How concerned are they about the president, who did not do very well here in Utah?
Did I mention we have 4 town halls the rest of this week? Just a little plug, sorry. I will tell you that, to be frank, the president does bring a higher degree of difficulty to everything that we do. My experience is that the constituents of the 3rd District are conflicted, right? We see the Supreme Court nominations, the federal nominations. We see the economy and how well it's doing. We see what seems to be some pretty remarkable progress in North Korea and other places. And yet, right, we struggle, I think, as a district with some of the personality and things. So I think it's important to be independent, to be a representative of the 3rd District and not of the president. And remember that this is John Curtis running, and I'm running on my record, not the president's.
So you don't think your voters in your district are coming around to the president as your opponent told you?
Well, I do think they're all evaluating, the accomplishments, right? And I do think it's impacting them, and that's where some of that confliction comes in.
Last question.
Thank you.
Good.
Thanks, everybody. Yeah, thanks very much.
Please watch your steps.